Hello everyone, and welcome to the second part of a series of videos I'm doing on renewable power for people who are new to Tekkit. So what I did in the previous video was a tree farm, and that was coal power. And I thought the logical extension of that was to take that tree power, alter it a little bit, and we can run two sources of power of that. And the second that we're going to run off of it is biofuel. So as you'll see here is I have got a tree farm that is set up with lots of different trees. As you can see, I stopped it mid-harvest earlier on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this going, and I'll come back and explain it because there's a couple of very key things I need to explain about biofuel. So we'll just put this in the steam dynamo here, make sure this is on. Okay, so this is going to be going now. So if we go over here, what we've got here is a bioreactor. Now this is what actually creates the biofuel. And the way that a bioreactor works is that you want to feed in several different types of organic materials, or just certain things you can put in there. They all combine, and the more you have in there, the more efficient it becomes. So as you can see here, I've got 9 different types of sapling here. I've got the standard oak sapling and these stained ones here. You'll find them all over the Tekkit world. Now, as you'll see, I've got an efficiency here of 1425. That means that every time it consumes everything that's in here, or one of everything that's in this line here, it will create 1425 or 1425 biofuel. So the idea is with the biofuel is you want to be really feeding in as many items at the same time, or you either want a system that turns the reactor off while you're feeding the items in, and then turn it on once you know you've got a nice efficient setup there. And if we start taking items out of this, so if I take one item out, as you can see, the efficiency is dropped down to almost 1,000. So that's quite a large drop there. And we take out more. As we get down further and further, as you can see, we really don't get much efficiency at all. If you're using things like the thermal expansion compression dynamos over there, like I am, you need at least 10 biofuel or 10 millibuckets of biofuel to sort of have one run through of the reactor, and you won't get a huge amount out of that. So really, you want to be throwing in a huge amount of stuff and as much variance as you can on what you're going. You want to be filling up these 9 slots here. So what I've got in this chest here is everything that you can put in a bioreactor. There may be other things, but this is everything I've found that's worked. So we've got our coloured saplings along here. We've got bone meal down here at the bottom, which I've put at the end of these normal saplings. We've also got rubber saplings, they work, jungle saplings. The different types of saplings count as different items in the bioreactor. We've also got all of our dyes that you use in the game. So all of these can be fed into there. So there's potential there, maybe you could have a sheep farm and you could pull out the wool and you could pulverize the wool and use that different sort of dyes you're getting out of this to go into the bioreactor. You've also got nether wart, and you've got all your different types of seeds here. So you've got cocoa bean seeds, pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, and we've got 2 types of mushroom and potato and carrot. So really, you could use this to clear up any excess stuff you've got, or you could have farm running off of it, get rid of any excess, etc., etc. But the idea is you want to be feeding in as many items as possible. Now, before we go over there, and I'll show how this system here that I've got going all works, there's a very important thing you need to realize is that with this golden fluid pipe, you'll notice that I've got over there, it looks like it's a lot less efficient than it is this thermal expansion stuff, and there is a reason that I've chosen to use it. If we look at this bioreactor here, I've got 1 item, and that gives me efficiency of 5, so I should get 5 millibuckets out of there. Same on this side, I should get 5 millibuckets. Now if we turn both of these on, I'll actually click on that, you'll notice that when we look at this tank here, I've got 5 millibuckets. I've used this Buildcraft transport pipe. When I've used the thermal expansion pipe, we've got 600 millibuckets. Now this bug was pointed out to me when I first thought, oh, I found this really cool way of infinite fuel. And I found out that this can actually cause a glitch with your chunks and it can corrupt the game save. So normally I would be someone to say, yeah, you know, it's a cool glitch, we can go for it. But on this one, I would say just don't even think about that, because there's no point setting it up and then finding out that really you've just completely messed up a game save you've been working on for ages. So this is now in full swing over here, and I'm going to take you through how things work. So the first thing at the back here, we have got pretty much what I set up the tree farm. We've got a harvester here and we've got a planter. The harvester just pulls everything out and it's filtered down here. Over here, just because sometimes when I break these coloured saplings I do get an apple drop, I've just got a chest here that's designed to pick up any apples, just because if you've got nowhere for the apples to go, it will cause problems with the harvester. So far that's not been the case, but you never know. It may be like a very rare thing for it to happen. So the first thing is, when this pulls out the logs, it goes into these furnaces here. I've got 4 furnaces because we've got potentially 4 types of log. A coloured sapling can be a jungle log, a spruce, a birch or an oak. And it just goes in here, and these are just normal furnaces. We're pulling all the stuff out of there, everything we create. First thing we try and do is feed it into our furnaces, and then any excess goes over to these steam dynamos here, which take the charcoal. That's essentially what happens there. Up the top here, if there's any logs that we just can't use in these furnaces, you know, they're all used up, they just go into this chest, and this chest just feeds it into these other steam dynamos over here. These literally just run off the logs. Now this could be more efficient with a furnace, but sorry, a redstone furnace, but to be perfectly honest, you know, I just like the way that looked. And the main idea of this was to get biofuel, because the biofuel, once it gets going, will add a lot more efficiency, and really what we do here won't make much of a difference with a tree farm this size. Now before we get into the actual system that does this, so I'm going to have a look at this planter here. Now as you see, I've got 1 stack of every type of sapling. I've told it not to consume the stack, and in here I've set up a grid of where I want the trees to be planted. Now if we go up top here, you will notice that they are planted in that same way. They look a bit funky because what I've done is I've actually used an upgrade for the size, which is too bigger than the area I've set out. This allowed me to make a little gap round here because these trees were pinned in by everything else. And I believe that I've just been grown into a tree. There we go. Because they're surrounded by everything else, and they're not necessarily oak style trees, so what they could potentially happen is you could have like 4 jungle trees spawn, and that will stop other jungle trees or spruce spawning. Different tree types have different sort of characteristics of how they'll grow. A oak tree will just grow right next to another oak tree. A spruce tree needs something like 5 or 4 gap around it, or something like that. So I just did that just so that central one there got a little bit of extra room to grow. And on these corners here, what it meant was that these ones here that are exposed to nothing that's going to stop them growing, I just made a little bit more area for that on these side ones, because they are also pinned in on both sides. This tends to be a very good sort of balance. Obviously, how you want to set yours up, go however you want to go with that. Now, the control system for this, I've tried to keep this as simple as possible using vanilla Minecraft as much as possible, or facsimiles of vanilla Minecraft, and just have this control system that's very, very simple and very easy to set up and understand. So what happens is, when something can't go into this planter up here, it is filtered into these different chests here, and each chest filters a different type of sapling. So what I've got here, for example, the orange stain sapling, I've told it to use the metadata and don't use these 2 here. This means that I will only ever have orange saplings going in there. Now you just heard that fire off. Once I get 1 of every type of sapling, as you can see, they all go the same distance to that first junction, and they travel up into our first biofuel or bioreactor here. So in they go. We'll have a look in here. As you can see, we have now already got 5 of each type in there, and it is gradually buffering out into the sort of tank here. The real slow part on the biofuel is the buffering from there into the tank. Now, the way this all simply works is I've got chests here with every type of sapling. Around the back of the chest I have got one of these comparators. A comparator will put out a signal once there's an item in a chest. You can read off of that the amount of items that are in a chest. So for example, if you have up to 2 stacks, you've got just less than 2 stacks, but up to that, it will give a signal of 1. Once you get to 2 stacks, it will give you a signal of 2. And it's based on how full the chest is. And all that I do here is I say, okay, when we've got all of these are sending out a signal, we'll do a giant sort of and on that, and it will just send out a signal underneath here to these 3 junctions. Now these are just set to put in a stack size of 64. Each of these junctions are set to only pull out 1 at a time. So what this means is, if we say for example had multiple in 8 of the chests, and one of them just got 1 in there, we'd get the AND signal go off like that. As you can see, groups of them go out, and then the minute one of the chests doesn't have enough, it stops sending them out. So we always have one of every item going out. We can't put anything out unless we have one of every item. So that's the essential way that this works. Just filter them out. We've got basically a giant AND system here, and we just got set so they all travel the same distance and they go into this bioreactor. Now, a single bioreactor will not be particularly efficient, but as I'm sure you'll notice that even for just a setup like this, we're already creating a huge excess of items. So we'll get to the point where, well, we're going to need a second and a third bioreactor, potentially a fourth, etc, etc. Now, you'll notice that I've got this RedNet cable down the side, and I'm going to show you what this does. I've set up a little system here, so let's just put this one here, here, and we'll do this one here, and let's just get ourselves a sledgehammer. As you can see, I was very prepared for this video that I'm doing, and we'll set the colour at the top there to the right colour. Right, so the next time this fires off, and you can hear it fires off because I've set a siren there, because sirens are cool, like bow ties and fezzes. Sorry, that was a shameless Doctor Who reference there. So next time this fires off, hopefully it'll be fairly soon, what you'll notice is I've set a delay on this programmable RedNet controller, and all it does is I've just timed the delay so that anything travelling into here, this will have a signal going and it will just stop it. Now we don't actually need it for that, but it's a nice little fail-safe just in case things lag. I found that occasionally if the game's lagging or your computer's run a few things, it will actually trickle things in just minuscule microseconds between each other, but that's enough for it to go, okay, tick, I've used up 1 and now I've only got 8. Or potentially you could have go tick, 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 and actually you end up, rather than getting excuse me, rather than getting your 1425 efficiency, you actually get 9 times 5. So that's just why I've done that. So as you can see, it's fired off. So here they come, and when they get to about here, you'll notice this light at the back will go on. And let's wait for that to happen. There it goes. It goes on just as they go in there and then switches itself off. Now you notice that these 3 other lights come on. So 2 other lights. Wow, I can really count. Good, I can. Now the reason that those other lights come on is that although you might not necessarily have things come in here in, you know, sort of not coming in instantly, you will have a case of when they come out of here, this is full. So if it's triggered from here and this isn't full, so yeah, if you notice, we're getting groupings of 1s and 2s and 3s coming through. They might try and go into here when it's not full. The first one goes in, this is full, then they have to go out and back up here. That's what these 2 other times are for, and then if it can't go into here, it goes up to here. In that case, you will have a situation where you won't get them going in instantly, and that's why I've got this system here set up. This is just the most simple system that I have personally for this to work. So Once all that's happened, we've just got the biofuel coming down here. I've just got it set in this portable tank here because with these fluid pipes, if you have a long run or you've got things coming out of one system and they go into another, sometimes you just have a little bit of fluid sort of go back and forth, back and forth. So I've just done that just so it's kind of like a one-way system. It can only go down from there. It can't go back up. And then what we've got here is our compression dynamos. These obviously run off of our aqueous accumulators over there. We just run the pipes under the ground. And these send out power. Now, as you can see, with only one of these bioreactors going at the moment, we're very slowly filling up a couple. We've got one here that's on full. That one's almost full. That's got a little bit in it. And once those get full, it's probably run maybe 5 reactors on its own. And then when we get to 5 compression dynamos on its own, and then once we get to a second or third bioreactor, we'll probably find that we get most of these filled up. I'll come back into the video later for that. And the final thing that I've got here is this whole system. It runs off of this lever. If I turn this lever off, this is set to a high command there. If I turn that lever off, we stop getting our saplings come through. And these do contribute to it. So we've got 10 other dynamos here. Any excess just goes through here and gets added to our output here. Already, if you come and have a look over here, you see we're on, what's that, 6 million, 6.5 million RF that we've generated with this system here. These compression dynamos really only use tin and silver and redstone. These steam dynamos use copper, silver and redstone. I'm using fairly advanced wire. Once again, it'd be possible to get that, I would imagine, by this point. And really, this is all it. You just need, sort of some laboratory items to make this. You need a fair amount of gold. A lot of this RedNet stuff is using sort of rubber trees and redstone, etc., etc. But there's nothing here that needs diamonds, and there's nothing here that needs to be renewed or changed or anything. The worst you'll possibly get is a case of you just have items going back and forth here because these get full, and then you can just add a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth bioreactor into the system, and you wouldn't even need to set up this control system. So as you can see, what we've done here is we've actually increased the efficiency of a very similar sized tree farm. We're getting just as much RF that we got out of the steam dynamos, but now we're adding in that extra component of the biofuel in there. So I hope this has become something that maybe will inspire you to have a go at it. Personally, I like it. I just like the fact that once you set up your tree farm, with just throwing in a few extra saplings, building a few extra bioreactors, doing a little bit of piping, you can then sort of really increase the outputs that you get from this. What I'm going to quickly do is just take you over what I do here for this system. So the way that this works is that we have a timer here, and this is set for 20 ticks, and this goes out on variable 0. Now if we go through here, once again, this is a bit disjointed, I do apologise. Our second one is we're delaying our input from the back, there. We're delaying that by the maximum that we can, and we're setting that on variable 15. Now we actually delay variable 15 by a constant of 90, and we set that out on variable 1. Now what variable 1 does is it resets our counter. Once our counter is going, it kind of ticks itself over. So we don't have a decrement there, we only increase it, and that's from variable 4. Now variable 4 is actually set based on what the output of variable 2 is here, and this is our output, this is our count. So we say, okay, if variable 2 is less than 2, so we can now turn this up, we could say make this 3, 4, 5. But if variable 2 is less than our constant here, which is 2, output that on variable 3. When we are less than that constant we chose, so as that's variable 3, and our timer has ticked over, output variable 4, so that turns our counter up again, this goes through. And then what we have here is when variable 2 is less than constant 1, so Constant 2 is, well, number 2 is when we turn our clock off there. 1 is just 1 less than that. So when that is less than that, we could make this just equals 2 if we wanted to, or so we just make this less than, this is currently less than or equal to. We then output that to variable 5, and when variable 5 is active, we delay that by 0 for the white, so that's our bottom bioreactor there. We delay variable 5 by 40 for our second bioreactor, which gives time for things to go in there, go, oh, it's full, go into here. And then we delay variable 5 by 80 for our top bioreactor. And then we could quite easily extend this out. We could delay it by that same amount again, by 120, etc., etc. And that's just how that works there. So essentially, we delay the signal to it's about the same time here. Then we have a counter that we set up that just turns itself off once it gets to a certain amount. And that runs off of a timer that we have. It just means that we can actually time it by seconds that we want. So guys, as you can see, we are just about to go into the point where we're going to start using a second bioreactor. And if we go and have a look at the resonant energy cells over here, we're at about 30 million RF we've generated so far. This is literally the second day in Minecraft terms that this has been running. So for the level of technology that you're using here, the amount of energy you're getting out of this is quite astronomical. I can't see how I would be able to use that amount in one day unless I literally had everything from a major build running off of this at this point. Now, this here, appears to have stopped getting fuel for momentarily. These were all full. This one's full. This one's full. May have been that I sort of flew out of range, quite possibly. As you can see, these three here are completely full, and it's starting to sort of gradually trickle into these ones. Once we go over to the second bioreactor, we'll find that we've got a lot more stuff going in there. So what we at there, 59 for each item. So we kind of need to harvest a few more. Okay, so this is now completely full. When this one was triggered, it probably try and go into this one. Let's have a look. Yep. As you see, the light came on, and the light is still on when it goes to this one up here. And we got our full 1500 out of that. And once again, the light's on when it goes in. So it just guarantees that when it turns off, we get the full efficiency out of that. And now that just stops any sort of issues we have. So at that point there, we're going to start getting a huge amount more biofuel coming out. So guys, after another couple of minutes, we are now running, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of these compression dynamos. The first 6 are filling up, or filled up, full up. Wow, my English is good. The first 6 are full up, and we're starting to fill up the other ones gradually. You know, we are enough 2 bioreactors here. This is the night of the last Minecraft day, and we are just about to fill up a resonant energy cell. So anyway, I hope you've had a bit of food for thought for this. I hope you've enjoyed it, maybe giving you ideas of what to do. Just to recap how things work, this is basically a tree farm, so we have our steam dynamos coming off of there, which with this thing here where we can turn the whole thing on and off, sends energy up into the harvester and the planter. Everything else goes off into our main energy supply. The saplings are sorted once they can't go into the planter into these separate chests. They're all set at an equidistance from this main point. We've got an AND gate using these comparators. The comparators all send out a signal once a chest has something in them, and each of these item ducts here are set to a stack size of 1, so they only pull out when you're getting a signal from everything, and they only pull out one. They all come together, go into the pipe here, and we've got a control system that just makes sure that if potentially there's any sort of lag or any issues, that they will all go in at the same time, just because we have a momentary 2-second burst of redstone power until it stops them going. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. The next video is going to be on nuclear power, which you can also make completely renewable. Have fun, guys. Hope you enjoy Tekkit.